Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. Established in 2014, DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by the Lemmix family, Ed, Courtney, and their son Brett. Ed graduated from FSU in 1979, Brett in 2009. Lifelong fans and Florida State boosters, the Lemmixes attend multiple football games every year where you can find them tailgating near the Unconquered statue. Wake up with their midnight shift coffee. It's the perfect breakfast blend. It's a collaboration with the Pensacola Police Department and the Rally Foundation. A percentage of proceeds go to the Rally Foundation of Pensacola, who work to raise awareness, support families with kids fighting cancer, and raise funds for childhood cancer research. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com. Check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee, DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Promo code's WARCHANT15. I think the FSU Spring 2021 promo has come and gone, unfortunately, Corey. So if you didn't join the tribe, you can always do it, but you just missed out on a heck of a deal. But it's always worth it. I mean, use the promo code WARCHANT30. Gets you 30 free days of access. Whole month. Free. You'll love it. Listening to us on YouTube, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Put the cursor on the thumbs up button and click, press, push, whatever. Like the video. And leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes and maybe even a nice, positive, uplifting review. Corey Clark, how are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing? You doing okay?
Yeah, it's my first show of the year where I'm seated. I'm sitting down. I don't know if it's the pollen. I don't know if it's being on my feet for 2.5 hours straight watching the practice. I had to put my contacts in because I knew I was going to have to bust out the binoculars. That kind of always messes with my head. I got a little bit nauseous during the entire – I'm not going to lie. Like, looking through large swaths of the practice through my binoculars made me nauseous. I don't know why. It's kind of weird.
That is really weird. That's like a little kid that can't sit in the back seat.
I used to get really terribly car sick. I sometimes still do. It's so hit or miss. It's kind of scary almost. But nonetheless,
you okay now? Do you feel good? Do you feel okay now?
I mean, yeah, I'm not nauseous any longer. I just feel kind of a little bit out of it, you know. But I mean, I feel okay about that. We want to talk about football. We got to talk about hoops. March Madness is underway. Did you watch that Wichita State Drake game? Woo!
Yeah, that was exciting.
Fantastic.
Me and Brady and I watched it together. It was good stuff.
Yeah, man, I'm ready. I'm stoked. Going to give you some more winners at the midway point of the show from our friends at MyBookie. That promo code's WARCHANT. They'll match you half on your deposit. All right, Corey, so Ira's been to 3 practices. You've been to 2. I've now been to 1. Got to watch the Noles in action Thursday afternoon from atop Dick Hauser Stadium. Shout out to the campus planners for putting those 2 structures next to each other, because if they didn't, we probably wouldn't be able to watch. Also, kind of weird, though, Corey. I feel like, I don't know, if I saw 10 dudes with binoculars, 40 feet above the ground looking at me, peering down at me, that would make me feel more uncomfortable. And they're all masked. That would make me feel more uncomfortable than just us roaming the sideline as we usually do with masks.
Yeah, but they got to get used to it, right? Because when the combine returns to its normal spot, it's going to be a bunch of dudes with binoculars above them watching what they do. So, hey, man, you got to get used to that life. If that's the life you want, if you're about that life, get used to some old white dudes 30 feet above you with binoculars watching you.
Hey, who you calling white guy? Hey, who you calling white guy?
Sorry, I was talking about Ira and
I. Speaking of the combine, I think later on Friday we'll be getting interviews with the players who will be participating in Florida State's Pro Day. Shout out to our guy Ira Schofel. I mean, quite literally carried the day. Our setup so close to campus, I wasn't able to actually hop on and ask questions. You were tied up. Gene hopped in for a little bit, but, man, Ira just firing off questions left and right. And he did ask Mike Norvell just about, how cool it was to see Hamza and Asante out at practice on Thursday. They both were out there. And then also, hey, saw Tamori Terry's coming back. Didn't seem like he maybe left on the best of terms. What can you say about that? And he proceeded to do like a Mike Norvell 3-minute filibuster where he just kind of talked in circles and did not talk at all about one of the questions. So he didn't want to talk about Tamori and Terry. We'll see if Tamori and Terry wants to talk about Mike Norvell when we speak to him on Friday. But I found that a bit interesting that he, when I first saw them send that release out last week or whatever and say that he was going to be there, I'm like, oh, whoa. Because I thought that was part of the friction, too, that happened like after the breakup. It was like, all right, you're going to leave? Well, you can't be here for pro day, but I guess cooler heads prevailed. News coming out of practice. What's the injury thing? Like, we saw something, we all saw it, it happened, it didn't look good. Can we not talk about that? I don't want to get everybody.
Well, I mean, I wrote a story that Thomas Schrader was injured at practice, so I assume we can talk about it. We just can't do anything until we ask him about it.
Okay,
that's the rule. We can't tweet anything. We can't IG anything. We can't Snapchat anything or put it on our boards if we see an injury at practice until we ask Norvell about it.
Okay. He was asked about it. Didn't give any details. Just said they were going to monitor him. But they'll be monitoring him for a while. He got carted off with an air cast.
Yeah, it's a leg injury, right?
Yeah. So it was it was like
you kind of hope it's a broken leg, right? That'd be better than a knee.
Yeah. Usually, I shouldn't say usually because I've seen it. I feel like historically the air cast has been when you've broken your leg, but there's, I think Keyshawn got air casted, Jaden Wallars-Woodby got air casted, Hamza did, and they all had knee injuries. So, I quite literally think it was the very first play of 11-on-11 he went down. I didn't see what happened, but he went down and he stayed down. And, man, football's a cruel freaking game because he got hurt, and he rolled over maybe, 5-10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then the show goes on. Like the trainers were knelt around him like in a semicircle, but they just kept practicing. They had music playing. The music is still going. They're still practicing. He is down writhing in pain. And it's like,
that's
hey,
man.
It's just
the next man up, and that's part of the deal. They've, most of the players on that field will go through it or have gone through it, where they're the guy that the trainers are looking at while everybody else is still practicing. Yeah. It's not like Brady's baseball team where a kid gets hurt and they all take a knee and watch. No, they keep going. That's the time. Time is money. Let's go. We got to go. Keep going. And I remember that was really crystallized for me. Not that I didn't know it anyway, but when I was early on covering Florida State, I don't want to get the name wrong, but I think it was Emmanuel Dunbar, was a defensive lineman at Florida State.
That's his name.
Who got hurt, and I hope I'm getting the name right. It was a defensive lineman that got hurt pretty seriously at practice. And, I think even the paramedics were called just to cart him off. It wasn't like he was having trouble breathing, but it was an injury that they were worried about. It could be one of those injuries that we've all seen. And, not only did nothing stop, they didn't roll him off to the side. They moved away, but they still kept doing the drills. But Bowden stayed, in his seat 30 rows up in the bleachers watching because, it was in Doak. So I guess we can keep calling it Doak for a while. It was all in the stadium for 30 the practice was in the stadium, so he wasn't in the tower. He was 30 rows up in the bleachers, and he didn't even move. And I'm like, man, that's college football in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
This kid is worried that he might never play football again. The head coach is sitting up there in the bleachers not moving, and all his 100 teammates are just going on with their day. Yeah. And it's not that they don't care.
Right.
But that's just how football practice is structured, man. You don't stop unless it's really, really scary and serious. You just can't stop. You just keep going.
Yeah. So
not like the Florida basketball kid. Obviously that would stop things.
So, that was probably one of the bigger stories of the day, maybe the biggest when you really do think about the likelihood of him contributing to this team and kind of maybe where that puts him on the timeline. And then, obviously, Chubba Purdy was not at practice. Ira asked about that as well. And apparently, I guess they've shut Chubba down for the spring to get him ready for summer. He's just rehabbing his injuries.
What a collarbone.
Yeah,
what a collarbone.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it could have been something else. But that not very encouraging sign for him as he tries to find his footing at Florida State. But it does look like a two-man competition. And I know, and I was telling Ira this. I said it audibly. I'm like, I hate doing this. As I was logging the 7-on-7, 11-on-11 stuff, because I think when they went to the final team period, Tate Rodemaker was 4 or 5. And as I'm looking at this, I'm pretty sure Jordan Travis was he was I don't know, Actually, why not write it down? Figure it out, Aslan. He did better than Mackenzie Milton. Mackenzie Milton was 4 of 10. So if you would have looked at these stats, you'd be like, oh, wow, hey, the freshman making his move. And it's like, nah, man, he dumped it off 4 times.
Yeah. But he lives that life, man. He's got a little Brad Johnson in him.
Yeah.
Like one of the practices I saw, he had 3 straight completions to, I think, it might have been Jackson West. Or no, it was Wyatt Rector. Yeah. But they were all 6-yard passes right in the middle of the field. Yeah. But, hey, man,
take what
it's open. It keeps working.
Yeah. One of the passes was over 10 air yards to Kentron Portier, or Portier, rather. I apologize. So there was that. I don't know, man. I wasn't highly encouraged. Everyone has bad days. I want to kind of see how Mike Norvell was going to react after the practice, and he seemed pretty upbeat. And listen, it's early, but that team is a lot closer. The Duke game is closer on the calendar than the Notre Dame game is. They're not that far removed from that team. They're trying to eliminate the habits and integrate the new players into the scheme and the system. And I mean, golly, there's a lot of guys that are on the injured, reserve, the guys that are in the corner end zone, lifting weights and riding bikes that you're probably going to count and depend on. They just didn't look like a good football team. I even heard somebody that I respect at the practice when he was like walking, when he was leaving. He's like, all right, I'm out. He's like, I've seen enough. He's like, they just don't look really good. And I'm like, yeah, they don't look all that good to me today either. But I mean, there was a couple flashes. But man, they're still dropping the ball. They still don't have a quarterback. I think Jordan Travis does look better than Mackenzie Milton. Funny enough, though, I think Mackenzie Milton, and he said this whole thing about him wanting to get everything down cold. He looks better on the run. And like Brendan Sano was talking about this. He's like, I think he actually looks better on the run than he does when he's, got time and standing in the pocket. And I'm just like, my theory on it is I think that he still doesn't have a full comfortable factor, like grasp of everything that's going on around him. So when things do break down, it's no longer the play that's been called, right? It's all instincts. It's find the open guy. And he's actually doing pretty good when that stuff happens. But hopefully it'll all start slowly coming to him. But they both missed erratically, like in the first 2 periods of practice. They do these drills where they have a net that's like elevated with 3 targets in each of the nets, and they're kind of side by side. And Kenny Dillingham will just bark out a number, like he'll say 2, and you have to, I think, hit the middle of the one that's on the right side. And both of them airmailed it. Both of them, threw into the dirt. That was early. They kind of found their footing as things went on. But ultimately, people are still dropping passes. Quarterbacks are not making the best throws. The offense is kind of trying to find its rhythm. And I really don't know how much of it really is like the defense looking all that good. I'll just chalk it up, I guess, say, hey, man, it's week 2 of spring practice. Rome didn't get built overnight, and neither is a 9-win team.
That's right, buddy. Well said there. At the end, anyway. There's a lot of downing. There's a lot of downer stuff from you. That's the last time you go out to practice. Yeah. You're not filling anybody with hope. We want subscribers, man. We need people to think that this is going to be a national championship contender. We want to keep it real, sure. Yeah. But we also want a bunch of subscribers, and they're going to love us if we're saying that this team is might win the ACC. But yeah, man, you're right. It's you can't expect a ton. It's the 5th practice. And with Milton, it's his fifth real practice in 2.5 years or 2 years or whatever. It's 2.5 years. Like, I know he was on the scout team last year, but you're not competing for a job. He wasn't competing for a job last year. He was trying to get people better. Plus, he knew that offense cold. Yeah. He hasn't had to learn an offense in 5 years. So it's been a minute. So I know people here, and I would probably agree with that with you too. Again, it was a small sample size. But over the long haul, like I said, the 2 days I saw, I thought Milton was a little better in 11-on-11. But overall, if I'm looking at the quarterbacks, judging every throw they make, from 1-on-none to those throws you were talking about into the targets, to 7-on-7 to 11-on-11, 1-on-1, I thought Travis looked better. But and Travis could certainly win the job. Yeah. But we're 5.5 months away. Like nothing is going to be won in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
I'm holding my Milton's. I'm not selling my Mackenzie Milton stock. Let's get that correct. All right, I'm not doing that.
But yeah, it's not like he's looked incredibly sharp, and it would maybe that's what some people were expecting. Maybe that's what I was expecting. I don't know. But it's just it's one thing to look on an iPad and to see what the plays are supposed to be. It's another thing to actually run them. And you're finally healthy for the first time in forever. where you actually feel like you're free to run and free to move. It's just a lot for him, and it's going to be a learning curve. Even at 22 or 23 or however old he is, there's going to be a learning curve there. I mean, Chris Winkie was 26 and he threw 6 picks in a game. So I do think that all this is doing is cementing that it's definitely going to be a battle in the fall.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's any way that either one of those guys is going to be named the starter after the spring game. Like, why would they do that anyway?
Right.
But this is who we're going with. It's clearly Mackenzie Milton. I think, looking at the numbers that you sent, it certainly seemed like Jordan probably had a little bit better day, but it also sounded like Milton in the red zone threw some pretty nice balls in the red zone. And that's good too. And Portier made a great catch in the red zone. Those are big deals too, man. Like, we know that Jordan Travis can move them from the 20 to the 20, right?
Yes.
From the 25 to the 25. Just pure athleticism is going to get. But, man, it's those tight throws and those tight windows when you get closer and closer to the goal line.
Yeah.
Milton has shown an ability to do that and do that well. I'm talking about in his career, not necessarily just on Thursday. Travis has not. Those are how you win quarterback battles too. And man, we'll be talking about this literally for the next 5.5 months probably. I don't know that they would officially name a starter. They might name a starter until whoever takes the first snap against Notre Dame.
Right.
But I can't imagine he's going to name a starter before the last week of the preseason.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I was, if you want to look at it.
And it's a bummer about Chubba, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't think he was going to compete for the starting job, but those are valuable reps that he's missing.
No, absolutely.
Like, he missed all of last spring, too.
Yeah. Yeah, missing spring is not a good thing at all. It's not good for your long-term prospects. But, again, Jordan Travis and I think Mackenzie Milton will hold down the fort. If you want to look at it through like an optimistic lens, like don't be a downer. Like I was pleasantly surprised by the way that Jordan was throwing some stuff when it came to throwing against air and at least some of the 7-on-7 stuff. Like he had a good feel for the timing and placing the ball well on some deeper routes that you had to kind of drop it in the bucket. And with Milton, like when he knows where things have to go, like you mentioned, like his release is like shot putty. But man, like it comes out hot when he knows what he's doing. Like there's a whole different kind of velocity and spin on the ball when he knows where it's got to go, and it comes out fast. And it's not like lightning. I mean, he's not. I don't know. It's not like Aaron Rodgers throwing a dime. But like when he knows where it's got to go, it's coming out fast and it sizzles a bit. I think the more comfortable he gets, the more of that we'll see. So. It comes that thing where I remember just like listening to all the Jimbo practices and it all just kind of bled into 15 into 16 and just like, hey, got to be consistent, got to find consistency. But there's guys out that are making good plays. Darren Williamson, 21, makes some really good plays, but then he drops some passes that you're like, what are you doing? Malik McLean does look quite impressive. I mean, he looks like Warren Thompson out there. He's wearing 11. He's got that kind of that stride. He's got that rangy look. He makes some good catches, but then he drops some passes. And then you got some false starts happening when you're in team. And then you got some, running backs not making
If you were a receiver, would you choose the number 11 at Florida State? The last two, right, have been Warren Thompson and George Campbell, right?
Because Ramon Lane was one, right? Yeah, so.
Yeah. I mean, what are we – 11 isn't a receiver number anyway. But certainly not at Florida State. Let's quarterback maybe, but I guess you don't even see a lot of quarterbacks.
I can't say it. Like I'm gonna Google it right now. Like really the best number 11.
Famous 11 quarterbacks. Yeah, there haven't been a ton. So like, what are we doing with number 11? Come on, Malik. Maybe that's why you mentioned that he looked like Warren Thompson. I don't think that made Florida State fans perk up in anticipation, like, oh no, we got another Warren Thompson. Awesome.
Well, he looked good, man. Like Warren Thompson looked good in practice, man. He runs well. He caught the ball well in practice, man. Like, he looked good. So
quick. I'm telling you, he's just going to go off at Arkansas. But yeah, man. Sorry, I did mean to interrupt, but only to make the point that number 11 hasn't been great to Florida State receivers here in recent years. Might need to rethink who gets that number.
Yeah.
Has Florida State had a good 11? Devin Bush? Is that like the last good number 11 they had? Was Vince Williams 11?
No, I want to say he was 10.
He might have been like 46. Or in
Oh
the
yeah,
40s.
actually I don't know. Yeah, don't get me. If you've looked that stuff up, I'll keep rambling about what I saw at practice.
Yeah, go for it.
So I did like the way the young receivers are at least built and the way they look out there, and I think that since Norvell was upbeat again, I think he's just trying to find guys that are capable, and we'll see if it all can kind of come together later down the road. Special teams is still kind of a slog, it feels like, especially when it comes to punting the ball. When they have to go live, they're not punting the ball all that well, but then when they're just hanging out by themselves on the field, they're booming them. So there is that. I still don't think there's anybody on this team that's a punt returner. Like, someone's going to return punts, but it doesn't feel like anybody out there is like a natural punt returner. Again, these are things that hopefully will get figured out in the coming weeks, months. Keyshawn Helton and Travis Jay were back there. They also had a young man that was Caucasian, which everybody loves when there's a Caucasian guy out there on special teams trying to make plays. I should actually pull his name up because he's a human being with feelings and thoughts and has a real name, but I don't have the roster in front of me right now. So I did see that. Those were little points of concern that I had. I was keeping an eye on because Ira and I are both out there kind of splitting fields, like looking at things. I was looking at running backs going into pass pro against linebackers. And I like that drill. So they have like 3 trash cans lined up, and you're a running back, and there's 2 linebackers, and you don't know which one's going to blitz, and you don't know which gap they're going to come from. So there's like, do the math. That's 1, 2, 3. So there's 4 gaps they can shoot. There's 2 in the middle and then 2 on the sides. So you as a running back, you kind of have to keep your head on a swivel and see where the blitz is going to come. Both guys are showing blitz, and you have to figure out which one's going to come blitz, and then you have to step up and make your block. Well, like David Johnson got on one of his guys, and Chris Marv got on one of his guys because and it was funny because they would like pantomime the way that their player was looking while trying to either block or blitz through there, and they weren't satisfied with it. Again, these are early preliminary things, but just, I was hoping that maybe there would be a little more polish to it. They are listening to music. Music is back in random intervals at practice. Not a fan of that. What I did like, though, and somebody tweeted this at me the other day about why I don't like the Nole drill, like the 3-level. I just don't think I don't think it happens in a game. It just as a wide receiver, man, like you're press covered, like you're being press covered, and you have to immediately go onto a block. But like you're 1 yard off the ball, you're 20 yards outside, the hash. You're not in a perfectly straight line 10 yards down the field trying to hold on to this desperately while the guy gets through, this little obstacle course you've almost set for him. But what they did on Thursday to instill a physical mindset, which I thought this was cool, is that they had it was a running back, an offensive lineman versus a defensive lineman, and either a linebacker or a defensive back. And there were some real big plays happening there. Like Jermaine Johnson did look good. Jermaine Johnson had a win. Jamie Robinson came up and had a big hit. Travis Jay had 2 big hits. DJ Lundy had a good hit. Maurice Smith had a good win against Malcolm Ray. So that was kind of good to see. That, to me, makes a little bit more sense. Because, all right, you're the running back. There's literally one guy that you've got to beat. Right? Like, your offensive lineman handles that block. You have got to beat the linebacker, who's literally going to be on top of your toes within, a second and a half of you holding the ball. Not the whole Nole drill thing. So I did like how they were trying to make something a little bit more, I think, comparable to game-like atmosphere, game-like situation, while trying to enforce a physical kind of mindset. So that was an encouraging thing, I thought. And again, they're trying to do all this stuff to get ready for a scrimmage on Saturday. And that's what Mike Norvell says. They're going to try to put them in really tough situations that make them have to kind of factor in, their recognition of down and distance and what you have to do and when things are going to break down. So they're challenging the guys. It's early. I'm not down on this team. I'm simply letting you know what I saw while I was out there on Thursday. I'm sure. Did Ira do observation thread, Corey?
He was just texting me what you were texting me, and I was putting in there. I don't know that he's done a story on it or not. But none of that's important. None of the stuff you said was important. I looked up the important stuff. Casey Weldon was a number 11.
Oh, sorry, Case.
Should have remembered that. Devin Bush. So I said Vince Williams was also number 11. So I was right there. I don't know what I was
right
thinking
on all these things.
Maybe on the Steelers he's in the 40s. I don't know why I was thinking that. I said 11 initially. But then Dexter Jackson was an 11.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
They had a nice Drew Weatherford. They had a nice run of 11s, and then John Franklin got the number. That didn't go well, and George Campbell took it from him, and then basically Warren Thompson took it from him on offense, and on defense, J-Rob had it, and he had an okay career, so he wasn't a bust, but 11 hasn't been great to the offensive players lately.
Vince Williams wore 98 with the Steelers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
So
he's not with the Steelers though, did he? He got cut, right?
Yeah, he got released.
I'm sure he'll get picked up by someone.
I mean, if not, man, he's been in the league for what, 8 years?
He's had a great run. No, he was drafted in 13, so I guess that is it. 9 years, 8 years. Yeah, that's really remarkable, man. Good for him. Yeah, going back to the practice, and there's also like we always have to qualify it. They're individual practices, so the team might be getting better, but it's in increments.
Right.
And it's not like you can look. It's not like you can look at a football team like you can look at my son's hitting practice. And like, okay, I'm starting to see the strides now. It's all coming together. He's starting to hit the ball off the wall all the time. There's a lot of different parts to a football team. So the O-line might be getting better, or the running backs might be getting better. But overall, as a team, it's not something that jumps out where you say, yeah, this team's definitely making improvements. Yeah. But we'll see. And again, that's why the spring scrimmage, whatever they're calling it, won't be a great gauge either. Because if somebody's doing well, somebody's not doing well, and they're both on the Florida State football team, so it's hard to get too excited either way. But yeah, man, we'll see about the defense. We'll see if the wide receivers can make any real strides. I would like to see what they look like in the spring game compared to what I saw them. See what they do over a month, right?
Right.
So what they do in the scrimmage compared to what they looked like the first days that we were out there, and if there's a noticeable difference. Even through, it's hard to judge it as a collective. Like, oh, yeah, these receivers have gotten all better. But maybe 3 of them look a lot better.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, back to the linebacker running back drill, Emmett Rice had a real big win. Emmett, I forgot, he shook somebody out of their shoes on the blitz drill. So, him and Amari look real good. Amari had a win in that kind of, I don't even know what they would call that drill, but the one I was talking about where they had, running back and an offensive lineman versus defensive lineman and a linebacker. Those guys came up and made some plays. So, to your point, it's just, I just was hoping to see a little bit more flash out of guys, but there were some guys, again, Darian Williamson's a guy I thought I saw flash. I thought Brandon, who's our guy from UCF? Moore?
Yeah.
I thought he looked good. Jamie Robinson, yeah, man. Jamie Robinson looks different. Jamie's wow. God dang. That guy just did what? Jarian Jones had a real nice interception in 11-on-11, blowing up a wide receiver screen and somehow pulling an interception at the same time. And then last thing I'll mention, they did inside run, inside zone run, where it was 7-on-7, but it's the big dudes. It's offensive line versus defensive linemen and linebackers. And I think I sent to you, and you probably put in the update thread. I counted 17 reps, and I thought, and I kept a kind of a low threshold. I'm like, if the running back gets 3 or more yards, I'm calling this a win, because I think part of this whole drill is that was supposed to be short yardage situation stuff. So it's, your 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3 kind of stuff. So I'm like, if they don't get stuffed at the line of scrimmage, or, the play gets blown up, I'll pretty much give the win to the offense. So it wasn't that high of a threshold. But 17 reps, I had the offense winning 9 of them, the defense winning 8 of them. So, yeah, I don't know, would I be sitting here differently talking about this team if I had seen the offense win 15 of those and the defense win 2?
Also,
so there's balance.
What we have to temper and what we have to keep in mind and explain to the people that listen to this is that we have no idea what the spring practices in 2012 looked like. We got to see one. You know what I mean? So it's now obviously there was more talent on the field. I get that, but who dominated the day more? Who looked worse? Who looked great? Who improved the most? I'm sure there were plenty of practices in March of 2013 and 2012 and 14 that were pretty darn sloppy in certain segments, where you go, I don't know about that. But, again, it's practice. We really, and we will, I'm not accusing you of this, but we have to judge this team on the games. We want to see individual players get better and shine and say, okay, that looks real. That looks, and that looks awful. But as far as judging a team's ability just on what we see in practice, it's really hard to do. Because you just, they're practices, and we don't get to see all of them. and we don't get to see necessarily the strides that are being made. Like Derek McClendon, didn't Norvell point him out on Thursday, and Papuchis?
Yes.
Yeah, and like I bet you and I, if we'd have watched that practice, we probably wouldn't have said 55 was having a good practice.
Well, no, but that's the thing though. Like he made like 2 pretty good plays, but like it was effusive praise though. It's like this wasn't one arm like just planting Cam McDonald down and then stepping over him and getting a sack. It was like that was your drill. You won your drill. But again, man, like this, it's a work in progress, and I'm sure they want to see kind of this is like a mosaic, right? Like they're not looking for the entire both sides of the football to be playing at 100%. It's like, all right, man, like let me get 3 guys on defense that are going to like just give me something, man. Let me get some energy out of my defensive end. Let me see a linebacker play really good. Let me get some plays out of one of my defensive backs. And you got that, like I thought Emmett Rice had a good day. I thought Steven Dix had some good moments you saw. Jarian Jones had that pick, so these.
Yeah, he had the pick that blew up the wide receiver screen, right?
Yeah. So there was those things, but I just, I don't know. I was just kind of trying to think through my head how I asked you. I'm like, if you had no idea who this team was and you just sat here and watched them, what would you think about like their prospects? Like that's what I was trying to think, but I'm probably going way too many steps ahead.
And I would say this too, and yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking they're 10 wins. I don't know, I'm not the greatest judge of football talent, but I know they're not a national championship caliber team. But on that point, I was going to make 2 points about Milton. Number one, I brought this up last week, I think. If you went out today, like if you went out and had no idea who he was, like had never heard the name, had never really watched Florida State practice, didn't know any of the names, would you have thought he was a guy that had thrown for 10,000 yards in his career?
Absolutely not. No.
You would think he's like, okay, is this a kid? Is this like the nephew of one of the coaches?
The Tim Becker. Tim Becker of football. Was he on the IM team?
Yeah, he's on the club team. Yeah. They just giving him. Is he helping with the GPA? Like, what is this kid doing on this team? Like, literally, that's what he looks like when he's not when he's playing necessarily, but when he's just standing around all these huge dudes, and occasionally with the way he throws. Like, it just doesn't look all that natural. Like, he's not winging it back. He's not 6'5" Jacob Coker, who certainly looked the part. But he's a better quarterback than Jacob Coker.
Yeah.
And so my point being, and also with Milton, when we talk about the shot put, it is a little funky at times. But the thing that he can also do, and I was talking to Ira about this the last practice I was at, because he was feeling there was a dude pressuring him right in front of his face. And without even thinking, he throws it almost underhand, like sidearm around the dude, and hits the running back perfectly, leading him on one of those swing passes. And it's like, man, I was telling Ira, I was like, you can tell that guy just – there are some people that are just born with the ability to manipulate a ball that know how to throw a football. Because you're not always going to have a clean pocket where you can see over everyone and you can just wind up and throw it perfectly. Sometimes you're on the move, or sometimes somebody's in your face quick, and you just have to do everything you can to get the ball out quickly. And he's one of those dudes. And I equate it to like a really good jump shooter. Like Steph Curry sometimes has to put it in. Not all Steph Curry's three-pointers are at the same exact trajectory. Some have to go up higher. Some have to go low. I guess they don't really go lower. But he has to adjust depending on who he's shooting it over. But he has the ability with his hand-eye coordination to know what kind of touch to put on it if he's shooting it higher. You guys know that I'm the shot doctor. That's been my moniker for years around here. Nobody knows more about the jump shot than I do. So I feel like I can speak coherently on this. But it's the same principle, right, as a football quarterback. Like those guys that can put touch on the swing passes. That's what Jameis was so good at early. Like, yeah, he could rip it 60 yards. He could also float it over the linebacker. That's what, dare I say, that's what Jimbo Fisher calls hand talent. Right? And old Jameis had some hand talent. That's what Mackenzie Milton has. That I don't know if that you can teach that. Now, I know he's not looked great. Not that we expected him to. And there are going to be some flubs. But overall, man, there is something there with the way he can manipulate the ball, throw it around people, throw it over people. And maybe it's because he was always a short quarterback. So you have to learn to do stuff like that, where it's pretty cool to watch. That doesn't mean he's going to beat Jordan Travis out for the job. I'm just saying when we talk about him shot putting in it and being unorthodox at times, he's really good at making the unorthodox throws.
It comes out fast. I'm telling you, it is super quick, and like when he knows where it's got to go and he throws it with confidence, like it sizzles a bit too. So there's a lot of good things. And like back to the point too, real quick, just about if you didn't know who that guy was, number 10 out there, and his backstory, at the same time, you wouldn't realize that he had a catastrophic leg injury that had kept him out of football the last 2 years. Like, he does move around well. He doesn't look to me like he doesn't look to be skittish. There were several plays in 11-on-11 where I don't know if it was supposed to be a screen pass, but they released the hounds on him, and he had like 4 guys breathing down his neck, and he waited for it so perfectly and just threw it right over their head. And I think one of them he left just short. I mean, like Jay Sean Corbin had to go down below his knees to catch it, and he dropped it. I'm not going to put that on Corbin. I'll put it more on, Milton. But like he still had. I mean, that kind of stuff will come back to him the more reps that he gets in live action. So, yeah, man. I think Jordan Travis looked better than I anticipated. So that's kind of an encouraging thing too, to a certain degree. So. We'll see again, man. It's week two practice.
And just think where we are this time. Well, obviously we're actually watching sports and playing sports, so we're in a much better place than we were last year. But going into last season, going into September, where your starter was James Blackman, you had no idea who the backup was, and they weren't healthy anyway.
Yeah.
And now, even if Jordan Travis wins the job, well, your backup is Mackenzie Milton, or vice versa. And like Aslan's saying, like, Jordan Travis can play, man. He's not going to embarrass you throwing the football. And we all know what he can do running. Like, if Mackenzie Milton wins this job, I'm to the point now where I think if Mackenzie Milton wins this job, he beat out a really good quarterback to do it. Or a guy that could be a really good quarterback. I guess I should put it that way. Like, you have some depth now, and you have some ability in that room and some confidence in that room that you didn't have anything like that last year. So you're in a better place, quarterback-wise, I mean.
Finally looked it up. I thought I looked it up. It was right there in front of my face. Where'd it go? Did I get it right? I want to give a kid a shout-out, man. What's going on my internet? This is terrible. What a terrible 16 seconds of podcasting that was.
You got to edit that. That's just too bad. I don't want my name on that 16 seconds.
Maybe he did too good at practice. Maybe they pulled him off the roster. Maybe this guy's too good. Parker Self. That's my guy, Parker Self. He was back there fielding punts. Looking pretty good, man. He was looks from South Paulding High School in Hiram, Georgia.
Okay.
There we go.
Georgia boy.
Finished his senior season with 93 catches for 1,508 yards and 19 touchdowns. Start the bandwagon. He's catching some punts.
Okay.
He's doing good.
Well, man, 93 for 1,500 in one season?
In Georgia, too, man. Hiram. Paulding.
Okay. All right. Man, that's crazy. That's a crazy number. That's a lot of catches for a high school kid. When was the last time a Florida State guy had 93 catches?
Jeez.
Is that flipping Sellers? Like, that's crazy. Parker Self, he might be the real deal.
Oh, he's Stop it, Corey. Stop it.
Is he the next Rashad Green?
Knock it off. We'll
you notice
find
what
out
I did
right
there?
after this.
You know what I did there that's perfect, though, that I'm always making a point to do?
What's that?
Who do you always compare a white receiver to? Not you, but one.
Julian Edelman?
Another white receiver.
Steve Largent?
Oh, always, yeah. Josh Geary's. all the great ones. Matt Fryer. Like it's just so that's why I chose Rashad Green. I'm not going down that path. Parker Self, you can be anybody you want. You don't have to be compared to one of the McCaffrey brothers.
Yeah, like every white running back was like John Riggins, right? Like,
yeah,
runs
exactly.
like John Riggins. Runs like John Riggins. Like, yeah, but he's like 180
And it was
pounds,
really
though.
funny when they were doing it with McCaffrey. Like there ain't a lot of comparisons there if you're going to keep it with the race. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of white running backs in our time that were Christian McCaffrey like. That was funny when they would still try to compare him to like Tommy Vardell.
Yeah,
who also went to
that
Stanford.
name on the tip of my tongue. I swear to God.
It's like, come on, man. He ain't Tommy Vardell. They don't even play the same sport.
Oh God.
He's like Reggie Bush, man. He's not Tommy Vardell.
All right, let's talk a couple of hoop stuff before we go. Scrimmage Saturday. We'll have coverage on warchant.com. Do stay connected to that. We're not going to be able to watch it, but we'll have the interviews and we'll be asking the questions, trying to get you folks
That'll be going
answers.
the same time or close to the same time as when the Noles tip off.
Yeah. Do check out mybookie.ag, y'all. Mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT, and you will get your bonus, or rather, you'll get your deposit bonus matched. So whatever you put in, they'll match it. So if you put in $100, they'll give you another $100, $500. They'll put another $500. This is my last parlay. This one is really wild and reckless, but if you want to have fun, why not? Morehead State straight up over West Virginia. Ohio straight up over Virginia. And we're going to take Loyola, and we'll give the 5.5. If that happens, y'all, and you put $5 American, you'll win 254 American dollars.
Man, you got what? Are you looking at the site right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's Cleveland State and Houston? What's that money line?
Oh no, you're not. Come on, I know you love Gates.
I'm doing it, man.
Gates.
I believe in Dennis Gates.
Plus 1250 is Cleveland State. We'll add it just to make it bonkers. If we added that to this one, so we're going underdog heavy, right? We got Cleveland State winning straight up, Ohio winning straight up, Morehead State winning straight up, and then Loyola, the Ramblers, to win by at least 6 points. If we put $5 down on that, we'd win $1,400 if it all comes to fruition.
Yeah, we're putting a lot more than $5 on that because we believe in it.
You want to get your craziness? You want to put if you put 10,000, I don't even think they would allow us. It won't even go up that high. It won't even go up that high. It won't even show us how much that would cost if we put $10,000 down on it. But
yeah, but if you put $100 on it, I mean, good grief, you're talking about $25,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood, I would think.
Don't put $100 on it though, unless.
Okay, probably not. Probably not. But hey, we are rooting for Cleveland State on Friday night. They play Houston. I think they're in the 7:00 window.
Yes.
Don't know if it's True TV or Bravo or whatever channels these are on, but yeah, we're rooting for Dennis Gates in Cleveland State. And obviously, just for my purposes, because I'm driving all the way up to Indianapolis, I don't want to drive up there for just one game.
Right.
The Noles need to go ahead and win that first round game.
Yeah.
So at least it'll make it worth my while. It'll make it worth my drive.
I think right now it's 10.5. It's one of the larger spreads of the opening round. I mean, that's not like a 1 seed, obviously. Those games get out of control. So what do you feel, Corey? What's going to happen, man? When we do this show again, are we going to be still talking about Florida State's basketball season ongoing, or are we doing a post-mortem on it?
So we won't do this again until Monday. So they'll have. Well, no, they will be playing
right.
Monday. So yeah. I think this team is talented enough and has shown the ability to bounce back from tough losses. I like their chances in this one. Again, the caveat being if UNC Greensboro just goes crazy from three, you can't predict that. They have not done very well at that this year. But if they go, they're going to shoot a lot of them because they're not going to want to challenge them in the paint. So if they go 15 out of 32 or whatever, then anything can happen. But I like their chances. I think they'll come out and play well. And then, we'll reconvene on Monday and see if we like who they're playing and if we like that matchup. And it's kind of weird that if they win, they'll be playing on a Monday. That's so weird to play an NCAA tournament game on a Monday.
Yeah.
But let's see what it looks like. Let's see. Hey, I'm already in Indianapolis. Might as well stay there. They got some stuff I can go see. I'll go to Hickory, wherever they filmed Hoosiers. I'll go try to do some sightseeing in Indiana.
Yeah, so we'll do the show Sunday, and then we'll have that ready for Monday. So it all works out fine in the end of it all. We got some Renegade Expression. We got Renegade Express questions to get to, and that's going to come up right after this. But I'm just going to say enjoy the March Madness, because I don't think I said that at the end of the show. So be sure to enjoy it, but enjoy these questions too. All right, welcome back. We're on the ponies. Proverbial, metaphoric. What if Corey, can you use your connections after that well-written piece on Renegade with the Durham family? Maybe we can actually do a show at their farm where we're on Appaloosas, just trotting around?
Yeah, man, I don't think I'm welcome there after the column I wrote on Renegade right before he fell down. So, no, I don't think I could use my connections.
It's water under the bridge. Not water under the bridge?
I don't know, man. I don't think so. I think he blamed me. He didn't want to do it. He did not want to talk about how great a year Renegade had. He specifically said, please don't do this. I said, I'm doing it anyway. He's like, all right, I'll talk to you. And then a week later, the horse fell down for the first time in history. So I don't think that's something they're ever going to forget.
Gotcha. Fair enough. All right, first question, or I guess like eighth question, because we're getting back to the ones we didn't get to the other day. It comes from Drill Sergeant Porter. It says, wake up! The turnovers against Georgia Tech were embarrassing, and if we could have cut those in half, we would have won by 20. Still, though, not as bad as seeing our players drinking from Gatorade bottles on the sideline. I didn't notice that. That would have hurt my feelings too, Drill Sergeant Porter. Anyway, I'm wondering, what year was Mickey Andrews hired at Florida State, and what did our defense look like in his first year or two? Not trying to compare him to our current staff, but just trying to find any silver lining I possibly can. Also, Voodoo from DeLuna, amazing. Can't wait for their FSU blend. Thanks again. Go Noles.
So I'm almost positive Mickey's first year was 84. The 83 season, they won some games. They made it to a bowl, but they gave up a ton of points. Like even the games they won were like, they were shootouts, 40-38 and things like that. So they hired Mickey, who I believe had been at Florida, and they hired him from the USFL maybe. He had been in the USFL for a year or two. And then 84, it was okay. It was still struggling. And then by 86, it was starting to be a real good part of the team. Like in 86 they tied a game 10-10. They lost to Florida, but I think they gave up 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns. Like the defense wasn't the reason they were losing games anymore by 86. And then by 87 it took off. And 87 was his first like junior and senior class that he had helped recruit and develop for 3 years. So it took him probably 2 to 3 years to get it to an elite level, and then it stayed there for 15 years.
You're right. Arizona Wranglers, 1983, before he came to Florida State. He was at Florida in 81 and 82. And, yeah, man, that 83 team, good grief. Won games 47-46, 40-35, 45-30. Yeah, shootouts.
Yeah, and then 84 wasn't much better, was it? I know they lost to Auburn like 42-41. And they lost some. I feel like they gave up some pretty big points in 84 as well.
Yeah, Arizona State was a 52-44 win. But the losses weren't that many. The Auburn game, as you mentioned, they lost that one by 42-41. They tied Memphis. I mean, they allowed 38 to South Carolina, but they were number 5 at the time. 27 to the Gators. They were number 3 at the time. Then tied Georgia in the Citrus Bowl 17 up. So, yeah. That's
right. And then 85, they had again. It was kind of like Stoops, right? Like Mark Stoops' first year. He took over a terrible defense. The first year they obviously had some warts and had some, the Oklahoma game, the Virginia Tech game, some other games where they did not play well. And then by his third year there, though, they had solidified themselves as one of the better defenses in the country. It was kind of like that. It's not so Adam Fuller couldn't. Again, it's not like we expected him to have a top 20 defense last year. It just seemed like it didn't seem like it. It got worse than from the year before, and it looked worse. It wasn't just the production was worse. Everything about it, the optics, the way it looked, the way they tackled, the way there was wide patches of green grass everywhere in the middle of their defense for guys to be sitting wide open, that all looked worse than even a bad 2019 defense. But hey, we're not thinking about the past anymore, Aslan. No. We're looking ahead to the future.
That's right. We're climbing. We're looking at the rung ahead of us, not the ones below us. Right. I was trying to find archive statistics, national rankings on the NCAA website, which they do have them prior to 2000. It goes all the way back to 1982 or 84. But apparently, like from 84 to 90, they just have like individual team stat, but you can't click on it. There's no link. It's a dead link. So I was going to try to see if we could find the growth, the climb of Mickey, but you'll just have to take Corey's word for it. Wasn't all that great. Became great. Became one of the best ever. It's awesome how that worked out. Old Dad's a Nole says, wake up. I got a little like social commentary, it looks like here. I'm going to punt on that one. Did say, Old Dad, that I got to watch legends Allen Iverson and John Thompson right there in the Tallahassee Civic Center, Leon County Civic Center, whatever Civic Center we called it at that point. Why is it that Tallahassee has not hosted a regional since then? Your biggest fan, Old Dad. I kind of did some research on this, Corey, and I didn't hear back from one of the people. So I actually emailed somebody that's responsible for helping out with site selections just to be like, hey, when was the last time the Florida State actually or Tallahassee submitted a bid for hosting? And I didn't get back from him, so let you guys down a little bit. But it's crazy. So I'm looking at, I'm going to try and pull this thing back up. I don't know where it went. Here we go. So, Corey, there's this example. They have this entire, like, spec sheet of, like, what to expect and what you need to provide if you're going to actually bid and try to host the NCAA tournament. And why won't it pop up? But literally, so one of them was like it showed you how much you should charge for tickets. So an all games pass or all day or all tournament pass, like at the round of 64 level, was like $330. How much of it do you think was supposed to go back to the NCAA? I mean, this chart was made by the NCAA as like an example to certain communities, certain cities that like, all right, this is what you need to provide for us in a bid, and this is like what we kind of recommend. It was saying $330 was the example to charge for an all tournament pass for like a round of 64 site. $330. How much of it do you think they said should go back to the NCAA?
300?
Yeah, $299.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole selling point with these things, and that's why you kind of see them in a lot of just big cities now, or in this particular year, one city, is it's supposed to help out the local economy by bringing people in, or helping the local restaurants and things like that, bars. But yeah, 300 of that's where, I mean, look, man, the NCAA, that's how they fund everything. But they don't get a dime. They don't fund the college football playoff. So for the softball playoffs, for the college baseball, for golf, for all their national tournaments, their NCAA, the whatever you want, literally like the golf, that is all funded. All these 64 teams that get to go play in the NCAA golf tournament, that's all funded. Those courses are rented. The flights are paid for by the March Madness, and that goes for everything: tennis, swimming. Like, it's all funded by the NCAA. So yeah, man, they want all of it. They want all of it.
And they give you they'll reimburse you up to $50,000 if you're a first four site, $55,000, I think rounds 1 and 2 for entertainment purposes. So like for like media meals, feeding the media, feeding the workers, things like that. It's pretty crazy. Like, I mean, there's a zip file I found. I opened it up and it has all these different files in there. But one of the also things they talk about, obviously you have to have at least like 10,000 seat capacity, which Tallahassee more than has. I do wonder if the airport matters, because it does say in there that you must, you should be near like a I don't know what the adjective they use, but, basically an accessible, robust airport aviation system.
I feel like Boise has hosted the tournament recently. And maybe other cities similar to that have hosted tournaments. Now, a lot of it is Atlanta, Chicago, Indianapolis, but, like, I guess Buffalo's bigger than Tallahassee, but Buffalo's not a metropolis. They've hosted it. Florida State went to Boise. I know they hosted it in 2009 because I was there. That was a great trip. So, I just think maybe Tallahassee was like this. They did it once. It was like, well, this isn't really worth it. We didn't get what we wanted out of it, so let's not do it anymore. That would be the only thing I could think.
19, first four date was in Dayton, which it always is. Obviously, Hartford, where Florida State played, Hartford, Connecticut. Des Moines, Drake University hosted, that's Des Moines. Jacksonville University, Jacksonville, Florida. University of Utah was a host. Salt Lake City. South Carolina hosted. So you had Greenville, Columbus, Ohio, Tulsa, Oklahoma, San Jose, California.
So not a ton of metropolises. I mean, Jacksonville's a bigger city than Tallahassee, obviously, and easier to get to. So maybe that's the thinking. That if they're going to have it in Florida, they're going to have it, in 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever Isaac was here.
Tampa,
that was in Orlando.
Oh, Orlando, yeah. Yeah,
that was in Orlando. I think maybe it was Tampa, but I think it was
No, you're
Orlando.
right. You're right. It was Orlando.
And then Jacksonville, and then I just think they would go like Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, because those are easier than Tallahassee if the NCAA is picking sites. Maybe the NCAA didn't get what they wanted out of that Tallahassee deal. But it's like, you could also ask your question. The same question could be, this was old dad, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't U2 come anymore? The Rolling Stones used to play Tallahassee, man. I mean, it used to be Pearl Jam probably played Tallahassee. Like, it used to be a big deal. It used to be on the tour, and now nobody comes but Luke Bryan and Salt and Pepper. That's who Tallahassee gets now.
I think Alabama came. I think ZZ Top's been here. I think Lil Wayne or Juvenile maybe.
The big acts though. Big acts.
Right, yeah.
The Taylor Swifts.
But yeah, I don't know what has happened. I mean, Tampa and Jacksonville haven't done anything all that crazy with their facilities, and they're off the beaten path. I don't know if it's like the rise of the Panhandle, like Pensacola and Destin area, has that taken away? It's like, all right, because you used to have maybe it was just New Orleans or Tallahassee you would stop on the I-10 corridor in the southeast, but now you have those other stops. So you're like, well, screw it, we'll just do New Orleans only, or we'll do Jacksonville. I don't know. That's a good question, Corey. But yeah,
it'd be cool, man. It would have been cool to cover something like that. I know there are plenty of people I've talked to that were in Tallahassee at the time that went and that covered the Iverson games. And I thought I heard a story where John Thompson was practicing, and I can't remember what I think he was practicing at a high school. They had a high school. They practiced at a high school somewhere, and he blacked out all the windows, like he put like duct tape on all the windows so nobody could see in.
Let's go.
Yeah, hey, that's how he rolled, man. But R.I.P. too. What a great coach he was. Yeah. By the way, that sounded sarcastic. I wasn't being sarcastic. He was an incredible coach. I went back and looked up while we were doing all that. So the 1983 defense for Florida State gave up 29 points per game. And then it was a pretty immediate jump. I was wrong. So the 1984 defense gave up 21.4. The 1985 defense gave up 21.5. The 86 defense dropped down to 18 points per game. And then in 87, they went down to 12.3. So it was on a graph, you could see the numbers plummeting pretty significantly and pretty consistently from a mountaintop down to the valley as far as the numbers, the points per game they were giving up. And that also, look, I'm sure I've talked about this before, but it was a great move for Mickey to come to Florida State. It was also very fortunate that Florida just happened to go on probation right at that same time. So you just said when they played Florida, in 84, Florida was number 3 in the country?
Correct. And
then they immediately went on probation the next year. So all of a sudden Florida State became a much more – because probation back then was a big deal. Like not only were scholarships lost, you couldn't be on TV. You couldn't go to bowls. It actually had teeth back then, especially when you're doing all the stuff Florida was doing. Good grief. So a lot of the big-time prospects that might not have gone to Florida State in the mid-'80s decided to go to Florida State, and thus the dynasty started. Now, credit to Bowden and Andrews for taking advantage of the circumstances, but that really did help that Florida went on probation.
Yeah. And old dads, if I ever hear back from that guy at the NCAA, and he lets me know when the last time Tallahassee bid on a host site, I'll let you know. I'll pass it on to you guys. Next question.
Florida State in 87, they averaged 41 a game and gave up 12. They scored 55 touchdowns and gave up 15. That was a good team, that 87 team.
It's good times. Good times. Rookie baby, wake up! This question's for Corey, because I know he's a fan of the show. Have you tuned into this new season of Last Chance U? I will say after watching each season, this may be the best season yet. This coach is much more tolerable, and the backstory of the kids is pretty interesting. Did I miss it? Is there a new one?
Yeah, it's a basketball one.
Oh, I got you.
It's actually really good. Yeah, I have watched it. I didn't even know it was out. And I'm like, what is this? And then I started watching it. And, yeah, the coach, he does not curse. He is very religious. He's also a little bit crazy. He just loses his mind a few times, but in funny ways. He'll say friggin' and mug instead of MFer. Yeah. But he is very likable. And, again, I think a lot of it goes back to the coaches in this thing, how likable they are. And he's very likable. Most of the kids are pretty likable. There's one that they really focus on that you have a hard time not despising just because he doesn't seem to appreciate the way people are going out for him and sticking up for him to keep them on the team. Like he's literally, do you remember the making of the band or whatever that P. Diddy thing was?
Oh, yeah.
When he'd be like, I'm shutting down the studio.
Yeah.
Everybody out. And Chappelle Show did a skit on it.
Yeah.
Like, that happens almost every practice with this kid. He's like, I'm leaving. Something happens that he doesn't like. He doesn't like getting yelled at. He just storms off into the locker room and starts taking off his jersey and putting on his gear to walk out of practice. Like, it happens 7 times. It's like, man, imagine Anthony Polite being like, screw this dude. I'm out of here. I'm tired of this about Leonard Hamilton. And walking off the court and into the locker room. That's a wrap, right?
Yeah.
Like Hamilton's like, oh, yeah, man, we got you. I understand. Come back. You're fine. You're good. Like, no, it'd be that happened once. And that would be the end of Anthony Polite's career at Florida State. And this just happened over and over. But I also understand JUCO is a whole different ball game, and he's a really talented player. But overall, yeah, man, I liked it a lot. And it's As you can imagine, I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but their whole goal is to play for something at the end of the year. And again, this was filmed last year. It was the 2019-2020 season. So their whole goal is pointing towards this national tournament or this state tournament that they want to win in California. And then you probably can guess how it ends, because every season ended like this. And that's a really emotional deal there at the end. But yeah, I would recommend it. It's really good.
How about that economy? Saw the Fed yesterday adjusted their robust growth for forecast. They said 4.2%. They're looking at 6.5%, Corey. Look at that.
Okay, man, thanks. I like that.
America,
where did that come from? That seemed not related to anything we were talking about. Just the COVID.
Yeah.
I guess the pandemic. I got you. Okay, nice.
Yeah. Tennis ump. This is our last one. We may have something after this.
Oh, by the way, not to interrupt. I don't know why I always say that when it's exactly what I'm meaning to do. I'm interrupting you.
Be like, hey, sorry, hey, sorry, I got to interrupt. Just say that because you're doing it. You know, hey,
I don't know why I say not to interrupt, because that's not to slap you in the face, and then I slap you in the face. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. There's a meme on Twitter right now going around from that show where the coach, who's an African American, is talking to his team and talking about what a responsibility they have is African American men. He's like, we're all African American. He's like, well, except for Mark, because there's the one white dude on the team, and it's really funny. Just the reaction, the way he says it, and then the reaction in the room is really funny. And if you haven't seen it on Twitter, you should go try to find it because it's a really funny clip.
All right, I will do so after this. This last question might be last part of the podcast. Who knows? We're all over the place today. It's Friday after all, or at least this is for Friday consumption. It's Tennis Ump. Wake up, guys. Enjoyed a few cups of DeLuna coffee this morning.
Nice.
Thank you, Tennis Ump. Hopefully use the promo code WarChant15 when you did so. That lets them know that you heard about it from us and that their ROI, that's return on investment. Look at me, Corey. I know all these things now.
Man, you're getting after it.
Strong. My question would be, from the limited observation and interviews that you have had, what is the biggest surprise, both positively and negatively, about this team so far this year? Thanks as always. All right, spirit of full disclosure, we're recording this before practice on Thursday. I am tentatively scheduled to have been there, and if I was, you'll know, because in the beginning of the podcast, that's what Corey and I are going to talk about is football. So I probably shared my thoughts in the beginning of the podcast. Corey, you probably did as well, but maybe specifically, biggest surprise, positive, negative so far?
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a negative? I don't know what
Wide
I don't know what a
receivers?
negative could be. Yeah, but I'm not surprised by it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of what I thought would be the case. Maybe I'm surprised that in those 2 days, just those 2 days, how underwhelming they were.
Okay.
Like, I thought a few of them would make those special type plays. So I guess that's the surprise, the bad surprise. But then on the other side of the token, to me, the surprise has been the DBs. And again, the practice they had on Tuesday, they had 3 more interceptions. We don't know the context. Maybe they were bad at the line. But Travis Jay has 4 interceptions, and I don't think Travis Jay is one of these spring All-Americans. Like, I think there's something to that kid. The way they talk about him, just his athletic, the way his high school coaches talked about him, his athleticism, he might be the real deal. But I just think overall, to me, the way the DBs took it to the wide receivers. Now, they're not going up against, the LA Rams from the early 2000s. It's not Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce running around. And who was the other guy?
Azir Hakeem.
Yeah,
Hakeem.
Golly, the greatest show on turf.
Yeah,
they're not going up against that. But still, they're in those 2 practices that I saw, and again, that is a small sample size. I have to keep stressing that. I do not want to speak like an authority on this football team just from those 2 practices. But they dominated those guys. And that, to me, is a good sign. It's a good sign for that side of the ball. But, yeah, I thought Jarian Jones, Bam, all of them, like they all, Akeem Dent, they're all, my man Akeem Dent, they all are just sticking to those receivers really well. To me, it was really impressive. So I guess that's the most surprising.
What's real deal when you're talking about Travis Jay? Because I'm not nearly as bullish as
I think he's an NFL player.
Okay.
That's what I mean. I mean, I don't know if he's Derwin. He's not Derwin. That's a high bar to clear. But I think he's a guy that is going to be a 3-year starter and a future NFL player if he stays healthy.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Ask you a question, you answered it directly. Look at that, Corey. We're making growth. We're making progress.
We did it, man. We did it. What about you? You should answer at the beginning of the show.
Well, okay.
After you watch practice. Why wouldn't you watch practice, by the way? You better have been out there. I know we're talking about in the past right now, but you right now you seem to be contemplating not going. You need to be there.
Well, I disagree with Ira's assertion in our group text message, but he's the boss, so he supersedes what I have to say.
Right.
Yeah, just, I mean, there's value, obviously, in me being there watching the practice because we do a podcast, and one of the people on the podcast should be out there watching it, but I also have to do some stuff that's much more conducive and controlled and easier if I do it from a house as opposed to, like, you know.
Oh, baby want a bottle? Does baby want a bottle?
There we go. All right, we're done. I'm done. I'm quitting the team. I'm over. There might be more to this podcast after this, and if there's not, have a great weekend.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.